Should Davante Adams regret the Raiders trade? And the reason why. The question is worded like that. The backstory here is that Davante Adams has some comments. Okay, he's unhappy generally based on his tone. So he said he doesn't see eye to eye with the Raiders on the vision for the offense. Now, Zay, you see the question at the bottom. What are your thoughts?
The whole point for me, right? And I think, in my opinion, the whole point Devontae Adams wanted that trade is because he wanted to get paid top dollar. I know, and that was his own incentive to move. It wasn't because the Packers weren't competitive. They weren't close to an NFL's another Super Bowl, or a Super Bowl for him. It was that because he wasn't getting paid the money he wanted, and so that's why the move to the Raiders made sense for him, or they traded for him because they know he wanted to get paid. They had the money to pay him, and that was it. And he got to play with Derek Carr, for that one season. So, should he regret it? Maybe, because there's a possibility that the Packers would still be a top team in the NFC, especially as weak as it got once Rodgers left, or even before Rodgers left. The NFC was weak. If he would have stood in that NFC, he could have been one of those teams combating for a Super Bowl. They probably would have been a team that could have possibly went to an NFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl again. So I think maybe, in terms of not only getting paid, but in terms of success in the NFL, he possibly does regret the trade. A lot of things, a lot of dominoes don't not basically stop falling when Davante Adams doesn't get traded. So I think that will be one of his biggest regrets, because then he'll get to play with Aaron Rodgers again, like I said, for probably the rest of Aaron Rodgers' career, whatever. Like I said, a Packer, you're still a juggernaut team in the NFC and the NFL, and they probably still could have had a shot at making a Super Bowl with Davante Adams still in the Packers. But him leaving or moving, wanting to get traded, changed everything. So that I think maybe that's where he's most regretful.
Yeah, I disagree. I don't think he should regret going to the Raiders despite everything that happened last year. And I'm gonna explain everything right now. Now, we have to take the words of Adams and what he said and try to dig into it, right? Because there was a couple things he said. Number one, where I would just correct you on, was that according to him, the Packers actually did offer him more money than the Raiders. Now, number two, he also said when he left and reiterated that he didn't want to waste his prime years with the uncertainty of Aaron Rodgers. So basically, what he took in consideration was, listen, this cat, I don't know with this cat. Like, I don't know if he's gonna remain on this team. Things are looking spicy, right? And do I really want to be 30 years of age, still in my prime, but soon entering the back end and have those years playing with Jordan Love? Essentially, that's what it came down to. Like, do I want to play with Jordan Love? And clearly he didn't. And clearly Aaron Rodgers left the team. Okay, clearly. So he didn't want to be handcuffed. He didn't want to be held hostage by Aaron Rodgers' theatrics, which the Packers were, and decided that they didn't want to be held hostage by Aaron Rodgers. So I don't regret it. I understand last year wasn't an ideal circumstance, right? He wanted to buddy up with his guy Derek Carr, and at the time he thought that, okay, I played college with this guy, and that's going to bring out me into another, that connection right there is going to bring everything out. Sort of
Mm-hmm.
like Jamal Chase with Joe Burrow, sort of like Devontae Smith with Hurts, but it didn't happen because, Josh McDaniels in the system, Derek Carr, he didn't fit in that system. He didn't grasp the system. Now, I think they upgraded with Jimmy G. I really do. Jimmy G knows the system. He brings you a winner's resume, 40 and
Mm-hmm.
17 in regular season games. He been to a Super Bowl. Derek Carr never came close. Obviously, the X factor is his health. Derek
Mm-hmm.
Carr, I believe he didn't get hurt since 2017. Jimmy G, on the other hand, injury prone. But if
Mm-hmm.
he can be healthy, his job with all the weapons there is to play point guard, right? To dish out the ball to Davante Adams, to Hunter Renfro, to Austin Hooper, to Jacoby Myers, to Josh Jacobs. That's his job. And he's very good at that job. Jimmy G is not a guy who's going to throw the ball deep,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not going to get explosive plays with Jimmy G as your quarterback compared to Derek Carr, who's always taking shots.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to play it safe. He's going to get the ball into your hands, and you have to be great with the yak. The yards have to catch. And yeah, it's different, right? It's different from Aaron Rodgers, who's explosive, who has arm talent. It's different from Derek Carr, who would take shots. But because it's different doesn't mean it will be less effective.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jimmy G, from a perspective of him reuniting with a guy he's comfortable with in Josh McDaniels, he
Mm-hmm.
should be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave that there.
I think it's just basically he went from playing with Aaron Rodgers to playing with a boy, somebody he knew from a very long time, college teammates, Derek Carr. And then, then he gets moved the next year. I think that's where Davante Adams is complaining about in terms of him in the front office don't see eye to eye. Because the whole, not only was him moving some scenarios was the issue, was the thing, it was also winning with somebody he knew for a long time in Derek Carr. So that was I guess that was the pitching point for him to move on, to go to Raiders, to go to Vegas and play with Derek Carr and hopefully get this team on a positive note. I don't think Jimmy G's a downgrade in my opinion. I do believe that Jimmy G's gonna be playing with the worst offensive line he's had in his career thus far, in my opinion. So that's gonna see how he faces adversity in that regard. But other than that, I don't think that it's a complex situation to win it. I think it'll probably do pay dividends to play in that scenario where McDaniels knows how to win, Jimmy G knows how to win, and then the talent around them. You got two leaders in a locker room now, especially a Jimmy G who is a locker room guy. If people don't like McDaniels, they're gonna love um Jimmy G. Jimmy G's a locker room guy. Every team he's been to, that's what everyone's been saying. He's a locker room guy. He's lovable. He's a guy who's basically a coach on the football field. He's gonna show you the ins and outs of every play. So that's something that they probably desperately needed because as good as a talent Derek Carr is, there's reports that he was closed off. That he at times when things were hitting the fan, he didn't want to talk. He didn't want to speak. He didn't want to kind of be to galvanize the troops in a sense. Not saying everyone said that, but there's reports that was said about him. But I think in this scenario with Adams, being upset. But I think as the season goes on, as he spends more time in training camps and practices with Jimmy G, you're gonna see a different tone in a sense of, all right, this guy wants to win. I want to win. I want to play for him. And I think you're gonna see a different, of course, scenario. I was just speaking from a place of, damn, I could have stood on the Packers with Aaron Rodgers and all these other guys, but
I
I
mean,
was the first domino to knock down, and everybody moved. But after you said the report, then it makes more sense. Like, oh, so I guess he left because he wasn't even certain.
yeah, I mean, staying with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, that doesn't guarantee the championship.
I don't
Clearly,
know.
they've been together for all these years, and they NFC championship game, falling short, falling short.
Yep.
At least on the Raiders, he showed that last year I believe he had about 1,000 yards, 1,300 or something like that. With Derek Carr, and Derek Carr didn't fully grasp the system. On top of that, so he showed that he didn't need Aaron Rodgers. You don't need Aaron Rodgers. He's 39 years old, and he ended up leaving. Would you have risked Jordan Love? Granted, Jordan Love could be the next Patrick Mahomes. He could be the next bust, right? We don't know that, and he didn't want to take that risk. That's what he said. He didn't want to find out, and that's why he went over there, and that's why he's over there now. So, I don't think the Raiders are a bad team. Everybody's looking at them like they're a bad team. Jimmy G's a winner.
No.
I don't think they're gonna win a division like up front if you ask me today,
Yeah.
but I still think they'd be competitive. So I don't think he should complain. On Instagram, he showed a picture of him and the owner, you know, um, together. So I think we'll move on from this. I think he'd move on from this. I think he'd put up numbers, maybe not spectacular numbers, because I'm not sure
Yeah.
if they're gonna air the rock a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe he will have a dip down in production, but still effective. And who knows if that translates to W's in the win column.
I think it's actually quite opposite. I think because of not having much more passes thrown towards him, and the run game probably being the main thing for the Raiders, I think he's gonna have more production in terms of touchdowns and yards because more plays like play action are gonna be like those 20, 30-yard bombs. And then Jimmy G, his arm talent is not there all the time, but when the play action is effective, he's usually throwing that deep pass where it's open most of the time, or it's a great one-on-one opportunity for their star receiver. We've seen that in most times in Jimmy G's career, with Kittle and Samuels. So I think there's gonna be something that we could probably witness with McDaniels having a lot more play action plays, because Josh Jacobs is a dude who, he's a man amongst boys. He's gonna try to run through the damn offensive line, and it's gonna give opportunity for Jimmy G to get some easy pass down the line. Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.